Okay, welcome to the 1090 podcast. I'm here with Connie Raschke, and flew in from California. What part of California are you from again?
Ventura, California.
That sounds pretty. Is it pretty there?
Yes, it's like a little hidden gem.
Yeah.
We're right in between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles, and it's a great place to live, great place to grow up.
I am a sucker for California. We just went for Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
Are you a fan of Disney?
Love Disney.
Yeah,
Even as an adult.
The weather there, you just can't beat it.
You can't beat it.
And the food.
Yes.
And then the beach. Anyway, thanks for coming all the way to California. Sorry you're on the 1090 podcast. If you're on our podcast, your life probably is awful. So I'm sorry that you're here, but I'm also grateful that you're here.
Thank you.
I'm willing to share your story.
Happy to be here.
I'm going to start with the obituary of your husband.
Okay.
Chris Mark Raschke. It is with deep sorrow that we share the passing of Chris Mark Raschke on August 3rd, 2025. At the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, Chris was a beloved son, husband, father, and grandpa. Losing him so unexpectedly has been heartbreaking for everyone who knew and loved him. Chris was born on June 19th, 1964 at Community Memorial Hospital in Ventura, California, to Vernon and Alice Raschke. He called Ventura home for all of his 61 years and will be deeply missed by his community and all who knew him. Chris shared his life with his loving wife, Connie, and their children, Kenny, Christoph, Carly, Brooke, Craig, and then there's parentheses, Chris.
That's her husband.
Okay. And Kylie Keeter. He was a proud grandpa to Colt, Piper, and Renly. His cousins Mike and Jennifer and Jared Raschke. Hope I got those names right.
All right, you did great.
Thank you. Chris had an incredible passion for life and a heart that was always open. He loved spending time with his family, whether it was a weekend at the lake, barbecuing at home, or exploring new places together. Nothing made him happier than teaming up with his kids for a record run, where they'd change a water heater, mow the lawn, change oil, or track down a mystery noise under the hood. He never missed an opportunity to make others feel special, especially to his wife, Connie. Always remembering the little things that made her smile, regularly sending beautiful flowers to show his love and support. Chris had a way of lighting up every room with his quick wit, generous heart, and unmistakable smile. He was the life of every gathering, and his presence brought joy wherever he went. An avid lover of engines and speed, Chris embraced the thrill of racing. At 16, he began working at Ventura Raceway as their first official employee. He raced ATC three-wheelers and his Ford Pinto in the mini stock division with his cousin Mike Raschke at the racetrack. He then began working at Duttweiler Automotive in 1983. Did I get that right?
Duttweiler, but
Okay.
yes.
He's so cool. Working at the site of master engine builder Kenny Duttweiler.
Yes.
He became deeply involved in working on and maintaining engines in race cars as well as race boats. His friendship with Steve Watt is what led him to being part of the Speed Demon race team, helping him chase land speed records. Sometimes I should read before. I didn't know this was a legend here. In 1996, he was hired at Automotive Racing Products and became the director of sales and new products. In the scope of his duties at ARP, he interfaced with engine builders, engineers, designers, and competitors all over the world. He was very much hands-on and had a remarkable ability to look at an assembly or design from a practical point of view and offer suggestions to improve it. He was very much trusted and respected for his depth of knowledge and experience in the industry. He got to know so many new people through his job, but also remained friends with them due to his upbeat personality, his positive, will find a way attitude, and love of the sport. All ARP employees are in shock at the news of his passing, and there is a noticeable void at all the ARP manufacturing shops. For Chris, working at ARP was not just a job, it was something he truly loved doing. Known for his tireless work ethic and dedication, Chris had a rare gift for making others feel seen and valued. Yet it was his radiant smile, quick wit, and warm spirit that truly set him apart. He listened more than he spoke, offering words of wisdom when they were needed most. His positivity was contagious and had an uncanny way of lifting spirits wherever he went. In honor of Chris, let us remember to celebrate life, cherish our loved ones, and pursue our passions with the same fearlessness and joy that Chris embraced every single day. The celebration of life will be held on Saturday, August 23rd, 2025 at ARP. Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it. Connie, where would you like to start today with your story? Your husband sounds so cool, by the way.
He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
I could talk about him all day. That's the one thing that in this terrible journey, talking about him makes me the happiest. I think it keeps him close. He was an amazing person. And I think what I've learned is since his passing, he was even more amazing than what I even knew. I mean, I know what a good guy he was. I know how he touched people's lives, but the amount of people that have messaged me and sent me messages on how he affected their lives and how he helped and touched their lives has just been remarkable. We had almost 1,000 people at a celebration. People came from all over the United States, out of the country. It was truly, truly an amazing day and to celebrate him. But I think being part of the Speed Demon crew is unfortunately what landed us where we are and where I'm at. The biggest passion of his life, if he had to say that it was probably the one thing that he checked off his bucket list, is not only did he get to be part of the Speed Demon crew and come to Salt Lake City once a year, twice a year sometimes, and spend 10 days with his closest team members. At the time, the driver and the owner of the car was George Poteet. And that's what they did every year. They set land speed records, world records. And that was the highlight of every year. Stressful leading up to it. There was always they were always a little behind in getting the car where they thought it needed to be before they put it in the trailer. And about 7 years ago, I would say, we started getting packages in the mail that resembled race attire. And one set of, racing undergarments came in, and I said, "Hun, what is this?" And he said, "Oh, they're just long johns." I said, "Oh,
okay." I
said, "Well, they have a safety certification number on them." And that last I checked, first of all, we live in California, so you don't really need long johns, but they don't really need to have safeties, And I knew then I was in trouble. And we talked about it and said, what's this all about? Then the racing shoes came in, and he said, I'm just going to go license up, is what they call it. Just get licensed. And he did. And I could tell after that first trip that he got licensed, and you licensed he licensed for 100 miles an hour, and then 150 miles an hour, and then 200 miles an hour. And so, and that October, this was in August, and in October he went back out, and I went with him because I could tell then. And then it was like, okay, if he's going to do this, then I need to be part of it, not just his partner on the other end of the phone, listening to the excitement. And I felt like if he was going to race, that I needed to be there. He had pit crewed for my brother many years before that, and my brother had been in two sprint car accidents with a year apart. One, he broke his neck and ended up in a halo. So I was very familiar with the dangers in him getting behind any kind of a race car. But I knew that if he was going to drive, that I wanted to be there in case something had happened. And so in October we went. He licensed up. He not only he had already licensed up, but we went to the Salt Flats, and he a very good friend of his, Wayne Jessel, has a truck, and he was able to break a record in what you get. It was called your red hat. So you're in the 200-mile-an-hour club, and you get a red hat for that.
Kind of like a green jacket in golf.
It's kind of like a green jacket in golf. You get a red hat. Chris didn't take that red hat off except to sleep. It became.
He showered with that.
Oh no! Oh no! I've got bathed a couple of selfies that he sent that I just he was bigger than life. A huge smile all the time, and that hat went everywhere with us. It became with his red hat. Every social media post was with his red hat. It traveled with us everywhere. It was very cool. It was very fun to see him. And everybody then became, really knew him for Chris and his red hat. So after that, it really just kind of rocketed from there. George Petit, who owns the Speed Demon, Chris had been part of, like I said, the team for many, many years. And he knew he was getting to an age that he may step away from the car. And he saw something in Chris and asked him to drive it. This is a car that had, George, I think his record is 480 some miles an hour. And he asked Chris to be the next driver for the car. And Chris was very, very humbled by that. I was very nervous. It's a whole different type of racing, from going from a truck that goes 230 miles an hour to a car that has the potential of going 500.
How do you earn the right to be the next driver, kind of? Like, because he's not practicing on a different track. Like, how do you, are you?
No, he just, George, I think, saw something in him. Chris was very hands-on. When he went to the track, it was very focused. And whether it was, they blew an engine up, this is a team that comes, and there's 4 different engines. So you have different classes that you're in. And the team is amazing. I remember the first time I went and sat and watched. They blew an engine. They caught the car on fire. They bring the car back. They strip it down to the plain chassis. You have to rewire it. You have to put a new engine in. And that team doesn't even have to speak. They just move, and it's amazing to watch. That.
Even when they change the tires, like when they're coming off they do it in
seconds. And these guys will tear a car engine back and have it back on the track within hours. Yeah. So I always enjoyed, it's 10 days. It's long 10 days. So I would bring my laptop and work the whole time. And I have a job I was able to do that once a year. But to just sit and watch them was always amazing. And I think for Chris, I remember a time that one of the engines blew, and they threw to the side and they said, the engine's done. And little by little, Chris, I actually wasn't there this year. This was the year before, but he said, I knew I could get that engine back together again. And pretty soon Chris had connections like nobody's business. I mean, he knew people from all over the world and all over the nation, and racing connections was what he was really good at. So pretty soon he has things being overnighted in, pieces of the engine, parts of the engine being overnighted. And that's that engine he worked so hard on, that's the engine that actually got George the 480 some miles an hour record.
The record.
Yes. He just didn't give up. And the team didn't give up. It wasn't, and he would tell you it's not just on him, but he was determined.
Such a cool
story.
And
I think that George just saw something in him, and he chose, and we had many talks about it, because I was worried, as a wife, if somebody was going to step in a car. I knew the car was safe because George they built it in 2014, and there had been many, many passes over 400 miles an hour. So I felt that the car was safe. I was probably more worried that the car would catch fire and that he wouldn't get out. And the team would look, they're listening to this and they're going to go, she always mentions the fires that we had. But there were many fires. And so I think if I had to think that I was going to have to deal with something, it would have been, mending Chris back from something a fire that he couldn't get out fast enough. And that was probably my biggest worry. So we had many talks about it, and you could see how proud and excited he was. And he would say, "Hun, who gets this chance in life? It's a once in a lifetime. That George chose me. He could have chose any top race car driver in the world. And he's given this opportunity to me. And how do I say no to that?" And he couldn't. And I knew that. And I certainly didn't want to be the person that stopped him from getting to live that dream. And so he stepped into the car, I believe, into the driver's seat of the car. In 2022, he spent a week out there with George, and the two of them drove the car in of course, different classes. And George mentored him as a driver for 7 days. And the amount of hours of him being in the car and George being over the top of him and them talking and Chris, before we got there, the amount of videos and footage that Chris watched of George in that car, it was pretty special to see those two, and George kind of passing that torch over to Chris. And they had a record that we still have not achieved. It's called an E engine, and I don't know all the specifics of it, but I think the record's 360 miles an hour, and they needed to only go 365 to get the record. And at Bonneville, in order to set a record, you have to hit the record, and then the car goes into impound. They have 4 hours to, get the car oil changed, things like that, tires changed, and then the car cannot be touched until the next morning. And you have to go back out and rerun the car at that speed in order to get the record, or the average of the two. So it's not just a one pass.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Not that I knew much about this sport, or I didn't know much about it anyway.
Yeah.
That just sounds crazy to me.
It's great. Yeah. So the reason that people fight with Bonneville or so much, or that they go out there and they struggle with it, is because you can make one great pass, but you have to back the run up.
Is that just a Bonneville thing, or is that a racing thing?
It's a land speed thing in order to get a record. So in this sport of land speed racing, that's what it is. So there's a dirt, it's called El Mirage back home in California, that you run. It's like a mile and a quarter, a mile and maybe 3/4 track. And it's the same. It's just in the dirt instead of the salt. So that's in land speed racing. That's in order to get a record, that's what you have to do.
And they make you do it twice in case the wind was blowing or what?
Well, I think it's because in order to set a record, they want it, to validate that anybody can have one pass. And so that particular year when Chris ran that and only needed to go 360, 362, I think it was, I could be off for a little bit. But he ran over 420 miles an hour, or 410 on his first pass in the car. And I really knew I was in trouble then. And so the problem with that is that they took the car back to impound and they thought, we've got this. They didn't only get a new, they blew the record out. And so when they got it back into impound, they started tearing it apart. They destroyed the engine. So there you go. Done.
So
that engine.
Get the second.
He couldn't get the second. So
it's a it doesn't count.
It just doesn't count. But
they had a one timer for.
Oh yeah, 400. Yes.
10
so they knew that the engine could go that fast. So that then he brought the engine home, and that was the whole thing for the next year.
Did he ever explain to you what it was like going that fast?
Yeah, he did. He said, there's a mountain. Have you been out to the Salt Flats?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you get out on the salt and you look, there's a mountain range at the very end of it, and because I said, how do you stay in the lines, right? You're going that fast, and his thing was he picked a spot in the mountain, and that's what he focused on. But he said it was just like being in high speed. I mean, it just kind of wishes past you.
Right.
But he was comfortable in the car. And I think it was because George was so comfortable, and he watched George for all of those years. Mm-hmm. And he really felt like he trusted that car. He trusted George, his mentorship and everything about it. And it was very nerve-wracking for me. But I couldn't help but be proud and so excited for him. Talk about, he'd pop out of that cockpit
like a child,
and so excited, So, so he didn't get his black hat, or he didn't get any more records of course, that year. And then in 2024, Wayne Jessel brought the truck back out, and they decided to go for the points championship at El Mirage, which is the dirt racing. And I think there's 4 or 5 races at El Mirage. And so they ran that, and then we're going to run Bonneville. And Chris's hope was that George would have one more run in the car, even if it wasn't to set a new record. They get the hot rod trophy. So no matter what happens at the meet, the fastest car down the track during the week gets what they call the hot rod trophy. And they had it at that point 11 times. So pretty special, between Chris and George. The majority of those were George's runs. But in 2024 was a big year because they had set out to do the championship for the points at El Mirage. And then they wanted to get, again, the E record of the engine. I call it the little engine that couldn't, because they just couldn't couldn't advance their record in that. Yeah. Anyways, 2024 turned out to be just a huge year. Unfortunately, though, 2 weeks before Bonneville, we got word that George had passed. Kind of unexpectedly, but for some health reasons. And so that became, the focus. We knew then that Chris would become the primary driver of the car, without him there. And so the family had decided 2 weeks before that, yes, we're going to run the car. And Chris came out strong, and he was able to set a 459 mile an hour record and backed it up. And
backed it up, meaning he did it
again the second time, and he was successful at it. Oh my God. So, and the wonderful, beautiful thing about it was George's wife, Kathy, son-in-law, Jason, and his sister, Betty, Betty was such an integral part of the race team. They had flown out because the car was being raced and George wasn't there. And that was just...
So George is definitely with him.
100%. Sure. 100%. He was there. And everybody asked, how did you feel? And I said, I had no doubt. I knew that George was with him. I think that I was comfortable and had peace because I knew that George was in that car with him that day.
Okay, how much stress was over the overnight, or can we do it a second time though? Because were you guys like panicking?
There was a lot of stress because he was so excited when he looked down and saw that he had gotten hit it, that he didn't pull his chute. So it's a 5 mile an hour course. And we always, they have 5 miles to get this record. So you have to hold that, right? Keep the car in line for 5 miles. And so we always picked Chris up at the 7 mile an hour because it took about 2 miles to slow the car down. The chutes get pulled. And I always wanted to be, wives have different ways. Like some people want to be at the beginning of the track. Some people want to be at the end. And I always wanted to make sure that the chute got pulled and he was safe. So I would get in with Steve Watt, who ran the whole crew, crew chief, and we would go down to the 5 mile an hour, watch him pull the chute, and then we would go pick him up. And when he went by fast. And the first thing I heard Steve say was that he didn't pull the chute. The chute's not out. And so, my heart's racing, and he's on the radio yelling, Raschke, pull the chute. And he was flying. And so we get in the car and we get to the 6, we get to the 7, we get to the 8. And I've got tears, I'm a mess, right? Because he's nowhere in sight. We get to the 8, we get to the 9, we get to the 10. And finally we get down to about the 10, 11, and you can see the fire department, fire, the rescue cube crew, all the lights being there. And he ended up at the 12 mile, stuck in he was stuck. The SCTA cars were stuck. The rescue crew.
You're supposed to be done at the 5 mile.
Yeah, he was done at the 5, and we pick him up at the 7. Sure. And so he said he got out. He said he got out, and he popped the canopy off, and he pops up and he said, "Where's all my people?" Like where, right? He's celebrating and we are nowhere. He's so far out there that
you overshot it.
Completely, yeah. And so they had to call like a skip loader, like something from you guys use in the mountains at the snowcat. They had to bring a snowcat down to get him out. And you only have 4 hours. Like you have an hour to get to impound. But because all of the SCT officials got stuck, they had to just stop the clock because it took 4 hours to get him out of the to get the car out.
We're not used to cars going that fast.
No.
No one.
So,
like, am I wrong? When I'm in an airplane, aren't you going how fast are you going in an airplane?
I mean, yes,
like 400
it's
miles an hour,
yes.
maybe.
I don't know that, but it's very yes. So,
I mean, imagine that on the ground.
Yeah, and it's the fastest piston driven car. George's record is one of the fastest.
When you send us pictures, you have to send us pictures of these
yeah,
cars.
no, yes, I'll send them to you. Yeah, and even the
right, they're doing turns.
And well, NHRA, right? The drags, they go, about 300 miles an hour. But and it's always this thing where they say, well, it takes you, land speed racing, it takes you 5 miles to go that fast. Where in an NHRA car, you're doing it in seconds. But still, you have to maintain that speed for that. But so it took about 4 hours. They got it into impound and got the car. There was actually little damage to it it was stuck. Everybody was stuck. And they were able to get the car back to where it needed to be in 4 hours. And he went out the next day. So it's an average of the 2 runs that set your record. Gotcha. And so the next day, his really good friend, one of his best friends, Brian, says, that was a little light, and he was like, yeah, I knew I didn't need to go that fast. So I think after the first adrenaline was lit, I only know I need to hit this marker to be able to get the record. But so he earned his black hat. And at the time, I think he was only 17 people in the world.
No way.
To earn the black hat.
Cool.
So he ended the year with the Hot Rod Trophy, his black hat, setting the record. He was the point championship at El Mirage. So he ended 2024 just on top of the world. Yeah. So it was fun to watch him do that. It was fun. I know that was the highlight of his. I always preface it by, when they say it was on his bucket list, or it was the top thing in his world. And, I always like to say, well, his wife and his family were at the top of that. But that aside, was the most epic year of his life.
Well, it's just so rare that someone actually achieves a dream like that. That's so rare and difficult to achieve.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And that black hat became, it was funny then because everybody went, oh, there goes that hat
that red hat's gone.
That red hat's gone. I actually had bought them for myself when we travel. It's called a hat clip and it's like got a magnet on it. Yeah. And so I said, I gave him, my hat clip because I paid a ridiculous amount of money for the one that I had, but I knew that the hat wouldn't fall off of it because it was that heavy of a clip. So I ended up giving it to him. He carried that red hat with him everywhere he went. He didn't wear it, but that hat went with him just like the black hat. And he was extremely proud of that. Funny story really quick. I live in his world and sometimes I would have to say, 98% of the time I'm all on board, but 2% of the time, sometimes you just need to realize that it's a lot. And so we had spent the whole week at Bonneville. That black hat was huge. He was just on this huge high. And we finished at Bonneville and we went to Sturgis. We hopped on a plane and went to Sturgis to finish the week there. And I had said at the end of it, I said, okay, I'm kind of over the whole, like everything involved the black hat. Like, I'm so proud of you. I couldn't be more proud, but can we just have a couple of days where we're just us? And so we go into this restaurant. He's like, sure. He said, I'm going to even leave my hat in the car. And I said, wow, thank you. That would be special. Because when we got out of the airport at Sturgis, somebody recognized him with the black hat from social media and was like, congratulations, I met you one time at PRI or SEMA. And so he gives me that look like, see, I can't help it. right? And so
I'll even leave it in the
we,
car. That's so
yeah, I'll
good.
even leave it in the car for you.
So
And so
good.
we get in this restaurant, we sit down, and this waiter comes up and he goes, "Hey, were you just at Bonneville?" And I go, and I looked, and he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "No way." He goes, "Do you drive the Speed Demon?" And I looked and I'm like, "No way."
Connie, you cannot
Like,
escape this.
no, I was like, "This is," and he gives me that look like, he goes, "I know, right? I
What
can't."
an
And I
escape.
go, so this guy is like, "No way." And we have this whole 10-minute conversation where Chris gives him the whole lowdown because this guy's like, "Oh, my dad loves Bonneville," and this whole thing. And I'm just sitting there drinking my wine. Like this is my life. And I really can't even complain about it. Right.
Right.
So at the end of the evening, we get ready to have dessert and the guy comes over and he goes, "I'm sorry." He goes, I can't do this any longer." And I'm looking at the guy and I'm looking at Chris and he goes, "He paid me $20 to come and tell you that story." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "I've never met him." And Chris's look, his eyes are all big and he looks over at me and I said, "You did not." And he goes, "I couldn't help it. I couldn't." And so it
Wow,
was,
what a
that was,
jokester.
oh no, he was very funny. That was just him, and
Wow, he
at
got you
that
good.
point, I didn't even care that he wore the hat anymore. It was like all right, this is the life and I just need to enjoy it because,
Wow. And
you
good for
know,
that person going in on
oh,
it.
he
For
did.
like
And
he
Chris was
did.
looking at him like, I don't think he was gonna tell me it was a joke, but it was great. And then we ended up, because he paid me $20. And he had gone to the bathroom and said, "Hey, can you go over there? I want to
That is so
tell this."
funny.
Yeah, it was a great story. Um, so going, finishing 2024, we went into 2025, and in December, Betty and Kathy and Jason flew out, wanted to talk about the car, and had decided. George had always said, and we all knew that when they were done with racing the Speed Demon, that it would go into the museum. They have a museum of speed in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they really felt like, because George was, passing and that his legacy was done, that they felt that it was time to put the car into the museum.
That's
And
cool.
so it was hard it was hard for the team,
Yeah.
really. Um, I think for Chris, it meant that the legacy of George, that was the hardest part. Not that the car, I mean, he was sad about not being able to run it and drive it, but it meant more that um, that it was really a reality that George was no longer here, and that was really hard for him. And a couple weeks went by, and I started hearing conversations go on the phone about a car that they had found, that a car that they had wrecked the original Speed Demon in 2014 and rebuilt to the current gold one that Chris drove. And I guess when that happened, there was a car that they were going to purchase, and that was going to be the new Speed Demon. And then George had said, "No, I think I'd really like to build one from the ground up," and had gone to Steve Watt, and Steve, built the chassis. And so this car came back into the picture, and they had an opportunity. The owner basically said, you guys take it, and I'll put some money behind it, and you guys already have the engines." And when Betty and Kathy and Jason came out, they said, "We're going to put the car in the museum, but the trucks, the engines, everything is here for you guys to, we're going to leave that all for you guys." And so they made the decision to have what they called the Speed Demon 3. They started working on it, and it was a mad dash to the end to get it. And I kept telling Chris, like, I'm not really comfortable with this. Like, I didn't have a fear of the gold car crashing. I just didn't. I just, like I said, I thought there could be a fire. But this was a car I didn't know anything about. Nobody had ran that I knew recently. I didn't remember it at the Salt Flats. And Chris was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And Steve and everybody really convinced me that this car was safe, is safe. This is the car we were going to run. It's safer than the Speed Demon, than the gold car. And I just guess I thought maybe it wouldn't get done in time. It is really where I kind of settled on it. Like, I doubt it. Even 2 weeks before, Chris was like, "I don't know if it's going to be ready." Because I kept, I always take the week off, but are we going? Are we going?
Yeah.
Are we not going? What? And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know that we'll know until right before." Um, and so really right up until they were working in the car until the morning that it went into the trailer. And there was just an uncertainty about it for me, just because I didn't, brand new car for us, right? They had to make all kinds of alterations for it. He didn't fit into the car like he did the gold car. This is typical my husband. 3 weeks before, we have an Alaskan cruise that we're going on for 8 days. We're home for 4 days and then we leave for Bonneville. And he decides, I don't fit into the car the way I should, and my suit may be a little tight. And I always tease him about 4 months before. I say, have you tried your driving suit on this year? This is probably a time for you to do it. And so he's like, yeah, I tried the driving suit on and the car just is, I feel like I'm a little slug. So he goes on to I feel like I'm a little snug. So he goes on to a total strict keto diet, meets with a really good friend of ours, Bonnie, who does like my Pilates instructor, meets with her, says, you need to give me some exercises. And he decides in 3 weeks, he's going to fit into the car. We tease him. He can go on a keto diet and drop 20 pounds like nobody I've ever seen. So we go on a cruise and he sticks to it. I mean,
on a cruise,
he tortured himself.
That's brutal. Yeah.
But we come home, he's making progress with, where he needs to be. And they get the car and they say, okay, we're ready. We're going to take it. And, he flies out on Thursday morning. I don't come until Friday, and he texts me from the Salt and he says, I can't find my race packet. And I said, well, where'd you have it last? He's like, well, probably November. He has all of his paperwork in it. He keeps every timing slip he has. It has his physical form in it. And he's got to have it to get himself registered as a driver. And so I said, well, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. And I searched the house. I can't find it. He can't find it. So anyways, I ended up tracking it down. It was in his old backpack. And I said, found it. And he's like, okay, when are you going to get here? And the morning that I arrived, I went with Karen, Steve's wife. We get there and she says, he's called you an awful lot while we've been here. And he kept saying, well, I miss you. Like, when are you going to get here? And I said, well, you just saw me yesterday. Anyways, it was like over the top. Every stop he would say, well, where are you now? Where are you? Finally, it dawned on me. I said, do you miss me, or does this have anything to do with your race packet that I happen to have in your possession? He's like, well, I really do miss you, but if you could just hurry and get here, he said. And that was just him. So I finished all of his errands that he had for me. And then we got out to the Salt Flats, and he was like a little kid. He grabbed that race packet and I didn't see him for 2 hours. But so got there Friday, they had the car already, the pit set up. Saturday would have been his first pass. And because it was a new car, he had to do it in increments. So he couldn't go faster than 150 miles an hour. And then it needed to be, I think, like 200 miles an hour. So he made 2 passes. One was okay. There was just some things in the car. When you're brand new car, you've got to make sure everything's where it needs to be. And he really wanted, so his best friend and Chrissy were coming, Mike, it was his best friend and his boss from ARP that he had worked for 30 years. And they were coming for the first time. Chris had never been able to get them to Bonneville. They had bought a truck that Wayne Jessel was going to redo, and they had decided that they were going to run El Mirage and Bonneville for fun, like get red hats at 200 and something miles an hour. So
no big deal, just a little.
Yeah, just fun, a little hobby. And so Mike, Chris told him, he's been telling him for years, like, you need to come out, you need to we need to get you licensed up. And so Mike had, and Mike's extremely busy, doesn't get out and travel much, but they flew out Saturday morning. And all the years that Chris has been doing that, they'd never been to the Salt Flats. So they came out Saturday morning, and they were able to watch Chris do one run. And then, because they got there kind of late, and then Sunday morning was what they called, was going to be a shakedown run, and not faster than 300 miles an hour. That was the goal. He was going to go to the 3 miles, pull the chute, and not faster than 300 miles an hour. Maybe he was going to the 3. It could have been the 5. I think it was the 3 though. And so we went to the car show that night, had a nice dinner with Chrissy and Mike. Did a little, did visiting, a little bit of gambling, got back to the room and got out to the track the next day. And there was a pretty long line. If you qualify well or you do well in your first run, you tend to get to kind of go to the front of the line. But with this new car, and we weren't making the passes that Chris would have liked to have made, it was a long line of cars. So it was probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock before we got close to running. And got him all ready. His best friend Brian and I kind of were the two that would always get him into his suit. Got him in his suit. He went to walk away. I said, "Hey, did you forget something?" And I think he thought, this is a quick run. I'll be right back. Yeah. Right. And he looked at me and he came over and gave me a kiss. And I said, "Good luck," and got Chrissy and Mike in the car. And Steve took us down to the 3. And this car is a white car. I always videoed. I think it gave me something to do, right? Kept me a little busy right before because it's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
When to see him barreling down at, 300-400 miles an hour. And I always video. I know I was videoing at the time, but I couldn't see. And the car's white, so it was hard to find him in the hole. Because if you've been out of Bonneville, it's just a white, you can't see it. And the car was white. And so we're all sitting outside the car, and you had to Steve was somebody that's like, as soon as he makes this pass, you're in the car and we're getting to him. And so we're all waiting and waiting and waiting. It was like, "Can you see him? Can you see him?" I can't find him in my thing. And he's coming, and he's on a pretty good pace for what he needed to be because he wanted to finish it at 300 miles an hour. And right smack in front of us, the car ends up having what is a tire failure and just skyrockets into the air. Skyrockets. And it's not supposed to go in the air. I mean, these cars are heavy, heavy. Is all I could think was that nothing good can be of this, like nothing. And I remember him seeing the car in the air. I yelled and I turned and I ran in the opposite direction. And then I prayed because I knew there, and when I turned, a tire off of his car just skyrocketed across and into heading towards the pits. But I remember hearing "Oh God's," the spectators yelling. And I ran and I ran back towards the pits. And I paced and I prayed and I heard the word helicopter, and it was chaos. I prayed. I made deals with God that I should have never made. If just for him to be okay. And when I heard the helicopter, that they were going to call the helicopter, I thought, I work for a hospital, and I knew that if they could get the helicopter to him, then I would have some kind of control and be able to help at that point. And we waited and we waited, and it felt like forever. It felt like forever. I don't, that day's very foggy for me, very foggy. They said that I fainted. I remember all of a sudden being in the back of an ambulance, checking me. I think I was in shock. I mean, there was so many components to this. I really couldn't see what was happening. I was, yeah, I was in shock. They got me stabilized and got me back to where they, a doctor that wasn't part of the emergency crew came over and sat with me, and Steve's wife's Karen, Chrissy was there. And the helicopter finally came. And I thought, they came and said the helicopter's approaching. And I said, well, where are you taking him? Where are we going to take him? I mean, my thought was, I need to go now. I need to go right now because I need to be there when the helicopter gets there. And they kept saying, well, we don't want you to leave yet. We don't want you to leave yet. And I remember being very anxious, like, you don't understand. I need to be there when the helicopter gets to the hospital. So, and I think at this point, I didn't know this, but I think they were working on Chris. I mean, working on him. And that's why they didn't want me to leave. And I don't know. It just felt like forever. It felt like hours. And I just pacing and pacing and pacing and praying. And I looked up and 2 people were walking towards the pits. One from the emergency team and one from SCTA. I just wanted them to go away. I think in my heart, I knew what they were coming for. And it's all they could get out of their mouth was, I'm sorry. I just said, go. You can't tell me this. That was it. The word I'm sorry. My whole life imploded in that moment. There are no words when that happens. Craig, the head of the emergency team, came to me and asked if I wanted to go and see him. I so wanted him to just get to the hospital. They took me out to the scene, and I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see anything to do with the car. And he explained to me that he was covered up, but they had intubated him. And I said, could you just make him look like him, please? And they said, we can't, Connie, we can't. You just, so I don't know. I crawled into the back of the ambulance and he felt like him. He smelled like him. I begged him to wake up. And I got to spend about 15 minutes with him. And within an hour, I was in a car coming home, heading to the airport. And I think what guts me the most is that no wife or anybody should have to watch their husband die and then crawl into the back of an ambulance to say goodbye. And an hour later, head to the airport and go home. I have incredible guilt for leaving what I felt for leaving him there that day. And I know that everybody there was trying their hardest to make the right decisions for me because I was lost. I was so lost. Part of me making this trip was to go back out to the Salt Flats alone in my time to try to make some peace with the way I feel about leaving him there. You just don't leave your husband, the person who you treasure most in this whole world. You don't just leave them in a state, another state. And that's what I felt like I did.
You have you have the ability to like go back and talk to that person and be like, you were just literally in shock, like you literally had no clue what to even do. Are you able to give yourself that grace at all, or?
I have fought. I'm in counseling. I have been very early on. We talk about it. I've tried to process it. Yeah, I'm hoping that this trip tomorrow that I take will give me some peace. It's a struggle. And I know in my heart, I know in my mind that there was nothing differently I could have done. But it has broken my heart to think that I walked away. It's a hard process. You go home, you now have to deal with the fact that you're home and he's not there. Not only is he not there, he's not coming home, but you have to get him home. You have to now get him from Salt Lake City to California. There was so much coming that I think that, and I know that everybody made the right decision for me. I was in a hotel room. I mean, I didn't,
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't, I know that staying was not, and I think they made the right decision. It's just afterwards, it's just hard. I mean, I didn't have anything with me. I literally had shorts, a t-shirt on, and went to the airport. I mean,
yeah, I think you're 100% correct when you said no wife deserves to watch her husband die, see him in an ambulance, and then go home alone. Yeah, no one. You didn't do anything wrong.
that's the
No one deserves that.
no, that's the hard part. Yeah, it's not that I got to sit in a hospital and hold his hand and watch him take his last breath and tell him I loved him. And I think that's where I feel like it's like, let's see, I got cheated, but you know that when you get those phone calls or what happens and there's no control over it. You don't get that. He's gone. Sorry, he's gone. We're sorry. That's what they said.
Next racer's up.
And that's
and
the other hard
you're
part is
driving home to the airport.
they definitely shut the track down for the rest of that day, but their life resumed the next day, right?
Yeah, that's what I
And
meant.
yeah, that's
I
what I mean.
didn't
No,
mean-
no, not, but that's
Yeah.
exactly, you're right. That everybody's,
And rightfully so. Like, yeah, and that's what
it's,
Chris would want. Like, keep racing, but like, for some people, man, their world it's done.
yeah.
You guys are worried about it ending, and we're over here like it ended.
It ended. It ended. And I was, we had my parents, it was a little chaotic. And, I think the hard part was that up to like, you have your text threads when Chris races, and Chris has got his people I have to text, and then I've got the kids that I have to text, and then family and friends. And the hard part is up until literally saying we're at the 3 waiting on him was the last text message I sent to everybody. And the event is live streamed. So I didn't, until I came out of my fog many, many, many weeks or month later, did I even go back and look at some of the text messages that I had gotten. But the hard part was, is I left everybody in, he's getting ready to run. And then the live stream came, and I think a lot of people were watching the live stream. So they knew something bad had happened. The kids, family. But then we had kids that are trying to get, our kids are trying to get to Salt Lake. And finally the decision was made. We're bringing her home. Don't get here. I mean, don't try to get here. My parents were in Reno trying to get there. And I don't know, we got landed in Santa Barbara at midnight. The kids were there to meet me, and it just felt like a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from.
And you have to tell people, which is
Well,
awful.
I think for me is this was national news. I mean, it went fast. Everybody knew about this within a matter of hours.
How was that? What was that like for you, or did you even know?
I don't think I even knew that it was happening. I mean, the kids did. The kids were very sensitive. They had his age wrong. And then the whole social media thing. I was pretty protected from all of that stuff, but everybody has an opinion, and there was a lot of question about why it happened. It was a tire failure, but at the time we didn't know that. And how could that happen? And people post things on social media, and it's hard for your family, your kids to have to. I mean, I think I was blessed that I was protected from all of that. And they may have said it, and I wouldn't even have known they said it. I mean, I was in such I think I cried for 3 weeks straight, all day, from the time I woke up until the time I knew I was in trouble. Chris,
what do you mean you're in trouble?
I was in trouble. I was lost, and I was in a really bad place. I don't think I would never, ever do anything to hurt myself or to put my family with what I was going through, but I didn't care if I lived. Didn't matter.
It felt normal to die, like almost appropriate. Like, well, if he's dead, then I should be dead.
Well, yes, it would be easier for me,
Like,
right?
that seems
That's my
right.
person. He shouldn't have left me here.
And it would fix everything.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't, but like in your brain, you're
for
like,
me,
it would fix everything if I could
totally.
just die with him.
I remember thinking to myself, if I got ran over by a car,
Because you can't have the guilt of leaving your family behind, right?
No.
But like you want to be out of here, and that's where I was, like just in this weird gray area. Like I can't kill myself, but I don't really want to be alive.
No, 100%. That's exactly how I felt.
So please talk. Are you dealing with that gray area? It's hard, and it's hard to communicate with people you love.
Oh,
how do you communicate this with your kids?
Yeah,
without destroying them. Or
well, they knew I was in bad shape too, because they later on they follow me on my phone. Like, I have no privacy in my life anymore, because I remember them, Brooke asked me to bring her lunch, and I told her I wasn't near the hospital, or I couldn't, I was doing something. She says, well, you're right near the hospital. And I was like, how do you know where I'm at?
I got your location.
She goes, well, we were really worried about you when Chris accident. And so Sis and I follow you on your phone. I'm like, that, like, there should be, again, that's like against the law. That's like an invasion of my privacy.
You need it though. They love you.
That's what they said. They're like, oh no, you don't even get to complain.
Yeah,
and I knew that. But No, I was, Chris and I, we waited a long time to be together. We've known each other since I was, like I said, I was 15, he was 20. Uh, we had a connection through all of our years. I was married, he was married, we had our kids, that was all. But later, later on in life, when we finally were together, um, he is truly the love of my life. And I am so lucky to have had that. Um, I used to tell him that often that I adored him. And he's like, why do you say that? I said, because it's more than love. Like, I just love the person you are. I love everything about you. I just adore you. Um, and to lose him, we just didn't have enough time. 12 years was not enough time. We had just been married. It would have been our 7th wedding anniversary. Um, we had a whole life that we had planned. Really, he was going to work forever. I was going to work way longer than I wanted to because he loved his job. But that was okay. We had grandchildren and um, only one of our kids were married, but we had so much to look forward to. And all in a matter of 1 second, that was taken. And that's hard to face. And yeah, I didn't care if I lived through it.
It's only 8 or 10 months ago that this happened,
Yeah.
which is like insane. So, like,
Oh
what do you
boy.
have to say with the 10 months? Like, how would you explain the grief and the waves and how it's
Well,
evolved?
I think I had said that we had over almost 1,000 people at his celebration, and I didn't put his obituary in the paper. So we say, I'm glad I didn't. Social media nowadays, right? It kind of handles all of that. But there was a lot of people that said we didn't see the obituary, and so that day I had written something. Um, because there was about 3 weeks. Getting somebody home when something like this happens from out of state there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. At least we did to get him home finally. And then I knew that he would want to be cremated, and so it was 3 weeks before we could have a celebration. And um, I didn't eat for probably 3 weeks. I emergency room visit. I was a bit of a mess, and so when we got there that day to the celebration, and I looked around at all of those people and realized they had come from other countries all over the United States, what I had written, I knew that I couldn't let somebody else read that I needed to be the one to thank all of those people for showing up that day. And I felt like I was there, but it was more of a out of body experience where I spent the day watching others talk about Chris, share memories, laughs. Um, and it was important for me. So I think in that moment, I had a strength that I didn't know that I ever had inside of me, that I could get up in front of 1,000 people and speak and say thank you to them and share my thoughts about the person who I loved most in this world. Um, and there were so many honors after that. And for the first 3 weeks, it was chaos at my house. I'm sure you know, right? The
Everyone's bringing
family,
over food.
food, and they don't want you to be alone. And
Yeah.
it's like every day for 3 weeks, it was chaos at my house. And I just I was not like mentally, of course, there. And I cried all day. It's just what I did. And I knew that I needed help. I'm not somebody who, um, my girls will tell you that when you have a problem, you fix it. If you're sad, you go get help. Wasn't big on medication. Anxiety was not something that I was like, well, I just, yeah, if you went and talked to somebody about this, I'm a firm believer in counseling. And I remember calling my doctor, whom I work with, at about the week mark, he actually came and did a house visit for me. And I told him, I said, I'm lost. I'm worried. I can't quit crying. I can't get my thoughts together. I said, I think I'm going to need help. And, he was good. He said, why don't we wait and, let's wait another week and let's see, Connie, you're in this, you're raw. I don't know how you think you should be doing. And I remember week 2, I have a really good friend of mine that's a psychologist. And I said, I need help. I need help and I need it fast. I'm not going to, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm not going to survive. I'm lost and I'm in a deep hole. I felt like I was in a deep black hole that I couldn't even see out of. And so the week of Chris's celebration, I was able to get into the counselor, and I've seen her every Thursday since then.
Wow.
And I don't know how long. Poor thing. I mean, sometimes I tease and I tell her, I'm sure you go talk to somebody after you're done talking to me every week, because it's been a journey. But about the 3-week mark, I even, I told my doctor, I said, I can't get my thoughts together. So I was okay with reaching out for help. And I knew it. I knew that I could not get past this without help in many different ways. And so.
And the help came in the form of, like, what was the help?
Counseling.
Like people were listening.
Yeah, help listening. And I needed to take something like a low dosage of anxiety medication. I don't even know if you call it anxiety medication. For me, it's Lexapro, and I'm not embarrassed of it. I'm not.
Yeah, because
not embarrassed at all.
I think we've gone so far the other way with the medication thing. Like, we just hate it now. Like,
people, there's a lot of stigmas involved.
It's
no. And that's how I was. Like, I was that person that I was the person who was like, did you try all of these things before you took a medication? Right. And, I knew that I needed help. And so, yeah, he said, it's a very low dosage and I think it'll help. I just needed help with, when I say I didn't eat and I cried all day. I could not. And I knew at some point I needed to get back to work. I have a big job and my work had been amazing. And so after the 4th week, everybody kind of went back to work. And after the celebration, I had to tell everybody, like, I love all of you, but you can't stay here forever. Right. And my best friend had come, Janie, and she slept with me for 6 weeks. My girls slept at the foot of the bed for probably the first 3 weeks. Like, the amount of support I had was amazing. But I knew that I needed to also start to try to stay by myself for an hour. I didn't drive for a month. I just was a mess and really decided that I needed to go back to work. Thank goodness I have a good job who very much supports me, and knew that probably wasn't the first week, 2 weeks back, wasn't getting a whole lot back. I'm sorry.
What do you do for work?
I'm a senior director of operations. So I work for a community hospital, and I have 26 outpatient clinics that I run. Man. 18 managers. So they took care of everything. I know I didn't have to worry one bit. And they were worried about me coming back. They were like, do you think it's too soon? Because I went back at the month mark.
That's so great, though.
Yeah, but they gave me a lot of grace. Yeah. And they said, you come, and if you're only here for 4 hours, you're only here for 4 hours. And there were some days that's where I was at. I would be like, oh, I'm done for the day. There were times that I walked out to my car and was like, not today. I can't do it.
Why'd you feel like you had to get back to work?
Because I felt like I was going to even be more lost
than something normal.
Yes, I needed something normal. I needed to have a purpose. I will tell you, though, from the day after the accident, I got up the day after the accident. I remember waking up, everybody else was asleep, and I went into the shower and I sat an hour until the water got cold. And I realized that I was freezing. But from that day, I showered, I got dressed, I did my hair every day from the day after that accident. And I knew, and I made my bed, as I knew that if I didn't get in the shower, I wouldn't get dressed. And I know if I didn't make my bed, I would get back in it
And you just be there all day.
all day and I wouldn't survive it. I mean, when I say that, that's how worried I was. And so, I mean, my girls and everybody were like, Mom, it's okay to stay in your pajamas. It is okay for you not to get dressed. And I also felt Chris say to me, you got to get up, hon. I felt him.
Yeah.
And I think I felt him. I think I knew that if I didn't get up and do that, that I was just going to spiral into some craziness. And I think in the very beginning, I was a little nervous about taking medication. As far as I work in the medical field, I know enough about this that it could also go in opposite direction. You know, you're in a despair. I enjoy a glass of wine, or I enjoyed a glass of wine. I don't do that anymore. It makes me sad. If we were at dinner, I would have a cocktail. I knew that from the day of his accident, it took a long time for me to drink, or even enjoy a cocktail. I knew it wouldn't be a good place for me to go. I was worried about taking medication because I didn't want it to be something that I relied on. Yeah. So I think for me, going back to work was something that I knew I could at least have some control over, and that it would, keep me from sitting at home and being depressed and crying. And it took a couple months for me to be able to work a full day. I have the
It's only
ability.
been 10 months. Like in my head, like I'm still imagining you laying in bed half the week still. Like, God, like 10 months is so fresh in my perspective.
Well,
But you mentioned the word purpose, and I think that's just so valuable because when you lose the person you love most, life does not feel like there's a point and there's no purpose.
No.
And so if you can get that, like that's helpful.
Well, and I think once I call it coming out of my fog, which meant that I could think a clear thought. And that took months.
The grief brain fog is
It's
real.
still there.
Yes,
It's still
mine
there.
too.
I don't know how long it lasts.
Yeah.
But it is a real thing. I can walk in and have a task that I need to do, and it'll take me 4 times coming into that room to even remember what I was supposed to do.
Yep. Like when you walk into the kitchen, you're like, why did I come in here again? Like that's the
and it's not the whole thing, because I used to do that, right? Like come in,
Right.
retrace. There's no retracing your steps. Like you can come back out and go back in, and you're like, nope, don't have a clue.
Yep.
And that's how I was at work for a while, reading emails. Like it was like if a long email
You
popped
have to read
up.
it 5 times.
Oh no, for sure. I have a book called Signs. I don't know if you heard it.
I haven't read that one.
It's called Signs. It's been on my bed. Somebody recommended it to me. I still have the envelope that I had opened a piece of mail in, and I stuffed it in there. And I'm on page 3, and I probably have read it 20 times. And I brought it with me this trip.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm gonna try to read this one.
That happens a lot.
It doesn't.
You get a couple paragraphs there, you're like, wait, what have I been reading?
You have no idea what I just read. None. Yeah. So there was a lot of celebrations. There have been a lot of celebrations in the last 10 months for Chris. He was inducted to the PRI Hall of Fame. PRI is the performance racing industry. There's a big show every year. It was his show. He was there for, the whole week. Customers from all over the racing world would come. And so they inducted him into the Hall of Fame. We have a little community track that Chris raced on for years. It's called Turkey Night, where the midgets and the sprint cars come race, and they did a memorial trophy for him. SCTA had an awards banquet and gave him 2 of the most prestigious awards that they give.
He's a legend.
The flat track came and had a Chris Raschke day at our local our local racetrack. Like the amount of things that they have honored him with and awards that I have gone, and every time you have to say thank you. You have to give a speech for that. It's been very humbling, and there's not one time if somebody says that they're going to honor him that I'm not going to be there and be a part of that. So it's one of those that it's helped my journey, but every time that I come home from a weekend of celebrating him, it's hard. It's like it rips my scabs open that have just kind of, that I get, and then it's all over again.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you have this drop off off this high because you feel good in the moment. Like, wow, people are talking about him and they remember him. And look at this event they did. Oh my God. And then
Yes.
like the next day, you're like,
He's
yeah,
not
it's
here.
just,
He's not here. And I think the hard part is realizing that you go through periods where I just go into like work mode, life mode, and then it hits me. It's hard that he's not coming home.
yeah.
He's not coming home. And I have a lot of somebody on like social media called it like a grief being in a box with like a ball,
Yeah.
right?
I
Was
actually
that
just
was
shared,
that
I just
you? Was
shared
that
that
you just shared that?
I didn't,
Somebody?
some girl was talking
Okay,
about it. Yeah.
you shared that. That's where
Yeah.
I got it
Yeah.
from. And it hit like I'm like, that's it. It comes
Yeah.
to you and it pings you, and it in the beginning it's a lot, but it hits you. And I can go from being totally fine. I've had a great day or great 3 days, and then it'll hit me and the tears just, and you miss him, and you go through, you're being angry and all of those emotions. And it's funny, I used to call it a roller coaster ride, but when you shared that, it was like it was a
Yeah, a couple of
reality.
people on the podcast have talked about that, and then I saw that one. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta share this because it's so relatable. Like it's so
So
good."
relatable. Yeah. And
What do you have when people say? I'm sure people have said this, but Chris died doing what he loved.
oh, trigger,
Yeah, like
trigger.
because I get it. Like I get what you're going for, or like, how does that make you feel when people say that? I guess like
It made me angry in the beginning.
yeah,
Um, really angry. I remember somebody asked me to read something. It was a somebody posted at Bonneville. It was a motorcycle rider who was the top motorcycle rider, like the speed demon, right? Two motorcycle and speed demon, but they were the top of their game. They were kind of the ones that were going to go down the track. They're going to hit their records. And he said after Chris's accident, he packed his bike up and went home because he knew his number. It was only a matter of time before his number would be called, something to that effect.
wow,
And my daughter had said, Mom, I think you need to read this. And she had reached out to him and said, thank you so much for sharing, my mom. Like it just hit home. His number, it's just a matter of time before his number would be called. And somewhere in that post, somebody said, but to think that he died, he died doing something he loved so much. Like there was a lot of that in the beginning. Like, wow, how lucky, right? He died getting to
yeah,
do something he loved. And it, in the beginning, it made me angry is where it made me, because he loved, he loved life.
yeah,
He loved me. He loved the kids. He loved his job. Like, no, if he knew what the outcome was going to be, he would not have stepped in that car. And yeah,
it's just a
it
classic.
stirred something in me for a while.
Yeah, it's just an example of people trying to make it better, taking the pain away.
They
Like
don't know
he
what to,
died, what he do? Like
yes. And they
yeah,
don't know
but
what to
he
say.
died.
He died.
So this
He's no
is
longer here.
yeah,
And so I think today when somebody tells me that, I'm somebody that has to just, I tend to just go into stuff head first. And I had to sit with that for a while because it did bother me. And today, it doesn't hurt as bad when I hear somebody say that, because I do know that he loved that sport. Um, I don't think, that he would never have put himself at risk like that, knowing that in that day that would
yeah.
have
You're
happened
there
for sure.
watching him. It's a
No, for sure.
nightmare. It's a nightmare.
But yeah, that was a bit of a trigger for me, a really bad trigger in the very beginning.
Yeah,
And I know that people, it's like when people say to me, let me know if I can do anything for you.
I hate that one. You might as
What,
well just flip me off, or
what,
like,
what
what
is
are
that?
you
What does
talking
it
like?
mean? I don't, how would I know what I need?
Yeah, like well,
I,
okay,
I don't, and I know I think it's that people don't know what to say,
yeah,
right? They don't know what to say. So they say,
right.
because they're going to tell you, there's not very many people that I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need my lawn mowed. Can you come mow it for me? I mean, what is that?
No,
What,
yeah, and I'm sure like if you recorded every moment of my life the last month, I probably have said that 10 times. Like I probably do it too.
I am
Just unconsciously, like, hey, if there's
no,
anything you need.
I know. And so I just, from my first my first marriage. I call them still my brother-in-law, for sure. They've always been a big part of my life. And, I got remarried and moved on, but, I have 3 beautiful nieces from them. And my brother-in-law just passed away 3 weeks ago, 56 years old. He was in the hospital for a month before. So, it was very hard. It was hard. It rips open all these wounds that you have. But I've been very intentional in what I say because of all the things that were said to me and trying to be helpful and not use those words of, let me know if you need anything. She doesn't know it. My sister-in-law doesn't know what she needs. Right. Sometimes I still don't even know what I need. So that's hard. And I think that now people look to me as that, like, as the person, like, she knows what, she know, like, my nieces have relied on me and they know, like, we know what you know what mom's going through. And I do. It's breaks my heart. Nobody should have to go through this in life. I mean, I know that everybody, but you think that when you die at 80 years old, not 61, not 56, not so much younger than that. But it's hard because I want to be there for people when they're going through this, but it just opens those wounds and takes you right back to your week of hell and those feelings that come back, and it's hard.
I lost my wife, Courtney, in 2021. We were high school sweethearts. I loved her more than anything. And I told her I'm only going to love you my whole life. And now I'm in love with another woman, Sammy. It's only been 10 months for you, so you might just want to slap me in the face, but I'm just curious. Like, I found love again. You're a smart, attractive woman. You have a lot of years left. What are your thoughts on that? Or are you just not
You know
even?
what? No, I'll tell you, kind of like the whole time, everything in the very beginning was, you even mentioned that to me.
Yeah,
And
like,
you
I'm
could
sorry.
see
Sure. Slap me in the I get
no,
it.
no, no, you could see the fire
No.
coming out of my
Yeah.
eyes. But I will tell you that I feel like Chris guides me a lot.
Mm.
And I know that Chris does not want me to be sad every day. I mean, I know that. He was a pretty upbeat, positive person. When his mom passed away, he was the baby and the love of her life. His way of handling that was we cleaned her room out that day,
No.
clothes, everything. That tormented me, right? Because I'm a
No.
keeper. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 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 no. If that was his way. Like,
Okay.
that was just his way of dealing with it. And his day of dealing with it was the day after that. He had a trip planned for work, and he went on that trip. And I finally had to call him. He went on the extended trip. I finally had to call him. I worked on the obituary. You worked with his family. Like, we got the whole memorial service done. And I finally had to call him and say, "Hon, you have to come home. Like, I think you're avoiding something, right?" And but he needed that time. But that was just his way of dealing with it. He packed the house, the bedroom up. I mean, we went and got new bedding. It was very, like, for me, I was like, I don't think you're supposed to deal with grief this way. Like, right. I'd never really dealt with it before. And, but that was just his way. And so I know that he would not want me to sit and be miserable. I don't know what the future brings me. I think that, I don't know. I
It's a
can
good
tell you
answer.
that, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
You
fine
know,
answer.
I can tell you that I don't want to live a sad life. I want to find a purpose. And I've done that. I think for me, very early on, after about 3 months, I started to ask questions about the accident, um, started to question things. And I've now created the Chris Raschke Legacy Foundation that we're going to do pretty amazing things for. We're going to, safety is top on my list. Scholarships. I gave my first scholarship to my hospital for an ENT, for the EMTs that are there. To me, those people that tried to save Chris,
Yeah.
they worked so hard and little, they have so little resources at their fingertips. that I want to give back to people that
so
do
cool.
amazing things. So we gave our first scholarship away, and to be able to do it at my hospital was pretty amazing. I want to do a mentorship for kids, but that drives me, and the safety drives me. And I started asking, and I'll never forget. And I don't know if this happened, but because of a life insurance policy that Chris had, they have to have the death certificate and they have to have the medical examiner report, right? All of that stuff. Well, that stuff came to me, and I didn't share with anybody when I got it. But I thought it was, they had to have a toxicology report to send in. And, so I waited and waited, and they were like, oh, it could be like 5 months. And I'm like, 5 months? What? I was lucky enough to, if I had to wait 5 months, I needed to wait 5 months. But I thought that they were sending the toxicology report. And when I opened the envelope, it was a medical examiner's report. And I remember calling our nephew, Jared, and saying, I think I need you to come over. And I must have read it 15 times, every detail of it, over and over and over again. And that was gut wrenching. Gut wrenching. It's one thing to lose somebody, but to sit and know what the outcome of that accident was. But then I knew that there were things that needed to change in that world.
From reading
the medical examiner report. And I had talked to
you think you got some closure from that too at all?
It lit a fire in me.
Okay.
Is what it did. It lit a fire.
Maybe anger even.
Oh, I was angry. I don't know. I mean, I think your situation maybe was a little different and how that, right? I mean, you probably there was probably anger for you, right? The accident, right? It comes.
I'm still mad.
Yeah. Well, that anger, I went through a time where I was angry at him for crawling into that car, right? How, why you had your black hat. I think there's a lot of people that are upset with him. As far as why the people that love him the most and miss him the most, it's like you ended 2024 with everything you could have imagined. One of 17 people in the world, less than that for a piston driven car, not one that's a jet, right? Lots of people, so he had nothing left to prove. But I know that I had to start a lot of my conversations with people with I blame nobody, because people worry about the legalities of things. And
you didn't want anyone on
there's nobody in this, there's no amount of money that's going to bring my husband back. That was never on the table for me. But there's, I remember getting a small policy from this SCTA, the insurance policy, and I was angry about it. It's like, you want to give me $10,000 for losing my husband? Like, what is this even? What is this? Yeah. I was insulted.
Right.
And then, I'm somebody that will process things though and sit with it. And I felt like if I didn't sign that, I wanted to send it back to them ripped in 100 pieces, right, of paper and say, no, thank you. This is an insult. But the practical side of me knows that it's just their job that they're doing. And I thought, if I don't sign this, I'm never going to be able to question people or ask questions. Right? I needed to take the legal responsibility out of the equation that I don't blame. So for a long time, I had to have conversations that says, I blame nobody, and I don't want anybody to feel responsible for this, but I want to know, I want to know the details of this accident. So they sent the tires to Goodyear to be examined. And it came back with that there was a slit in the tire that looks like it was a dull object, and that would have happened seconds or less than a second before the accident.
Like he just barely got it stuck in his tire.
Yeah, whatever he ran over was not, because my thought was, okay, did he run over something the day before, or did they, because he wasn't really making record runs, so it wasn't like you couldn't use the same tire, or was it between the mile and the 2 mile that he ran something over and then it lost air? I had a lot of questions. And so when the tire, go back to the medical examiner, right? I learned what kind of injuries he had, which meant, was he wearing the right device? Was he wearing the right Hans device? Would he have the right helmet on? Did he have the right, what could have been done differently to not have these injuries? And then it became, I got the police report. And so reading through that, and so I started to, then the tire report came back. And then in January, I sat with the SCTA people and we went over all of the outcome of the accident. And what we felt that was the causes and all of that. I know that Chris would never want racing to stop out at the Salt Flats. It was a passion of his, but there has to be change. Yeah. And I think things, those, I call it, they're like a bunch of old cowboys out there. They call it a hobby. It's an extreme sport is what it is. You don't go 400 miles an hour and have it once a year or twice a year and have that be a hobby. And so we have a committee of people together that we meet once a month. And we talk about all aspects of the accident. And at the very beginning, there was, people that came out to help me understand the accident and look over things. And I remember them watching the video and I had to walk out of the room. Because the other thing is for me, his accident was all over you can Google, you can Google either one of our names and that's going to pop up. And so I was very, very leery of even going on any kind of social media for a long time because I didn't want to see that. And it was like, viral stuff. And so I remember us meeting and having to walk out of the room because they were watching the video. And we talk about things and they would reference the video. It just ate at me. And so I called a really good friend of mine, Jim, and said, I knew he had the video, and said, I think you need to bring your laptop over. He's like, for what? And I said, because I think you need to show me the video. And he's like, I don't think that's a good idea, Connie. I said, I can't, I have all these questions. And I said, and everybody refers back to the video, right? In the video, you see at this marker that this happened and this happened. And I said, and if I'm going to understand this and I'm going to push these safety initiatives, then I need to understand what's on the video.
Got to look at it.
Yeah. And so he just said, the video's here. You just let me know when you were ready and I'll come over. And so I called him on a Saturday and said, it's today. He's like, oh, today? You decided today's the day. Today's the day. So I watched 3 different versions of it.
Man.
Wow. And I just finally, he said, because of the accident and the way they have the different views of different, left side of the car, right side of the car, I had seen enough, and I don't ever need to see it again. But what it did is it spurred me back to it made me say, okay, I was focused on all aspects of the accident where I needed to kind of take it back. And there's a couple of areas that the conditions of the salt, people go out there and they drive their cars on the salt. They have bonfires out there. I mean, it's open space. They can't completely protect it. Right. And so knowing that keeping this salt as safe as possibly could be was something I knew was the very first step. If the salt had not had any debris on it, he wouldn't have ran it over. The car wouldn't have went in the air, right? It's just all of these things.
So little simple. So little.
Something little simple. Yeah.
Well, your 90% is so cool. And you went through hell having to look through that video to kind of get it. Like there's no way out. Like you had to go through.
Yeah. And that's kind of where it's been, is I feel like to get to where I was at, to be able to say, we have to make changes, was for me to have to do the hard things to get there. And I think that's where I'm at. Let me just say, it has not been pretty. Like I know that 10 months I'm sitting here and I can have this conversation with you. I call it I'm a hot mess sometimes. Like
Me too.
I will cry. I have a cocoon is my bedroom. My kids call it my Chris shrine. And I tell them, don't judge. You don't have to come to my house if you don't like there's pictures of him everywhere. It's my safe place. We redid our bedroom. We both have very busy lives or had very busy lives, and it took us 2 years to do a renovation on our bedroom and master bathroom. That was just, we've had it about 80% done. Um, the time of his accident, an amazing friend of ours has come in and kind of finished everything for me. But he's there. I mean, I'll have to show you a picture of his urn. It's Speed Demon Gold and it has ARP
I love
bolts
that.
on it. And he sits under the TV in my room, and all of his helmets are there.
You have a little shrine.
It's my shrine, and I don't let like they're I mean my kids, you'll hear them. I'll hear them in the house, and they'll go up to my bedroom, and I'll hear hi Chris, and that my daughters have been like, can we bring him down for Thanksgiving? I'm like, no, you cannot bring. Not everybody's comfortable with this, right? I have two girls. Chris has two boys and a girl. Carly, our youngest, or his youngest, lives at home with me still, and she kind of is like the whole Chris shrine. I think she would prefer, right, to not have all of the pictures around, but she humors me in all the stuff that I have, and all of our family pictures and stuff. But that's my comfort. I love coming home from a busy day, and I don't need a TV. I don't need anything. I need silence, and I sit with it, and that's where I feel closest to him.
Just need your safe space.
That's my safe space. Yes.
God, this flew by. Do you even know how we end every podcast? We end every podcast with your top 3 favorite movies.
Oh boy.
But before we do that, anything else you want to say or clarify or wrap up about Chris, grief, anything before we get there?
Just that it's a journey, and I feel like this isn't, I know that this isn't, I'm not at the peak of where I am with sadness or with getting better at this. There are gut-wrenching days still, and I know that I'm going to have those, but I think diving into everything that will make things safer and ways that I can help people in grief, and through Chris's foundation, that's what's keeping me going right now.
And I love the part of your story where you asked for help.
Oh,
like that is because that's what I try to, like, Mason, how are you doing it? I'm like, I ask for help because I'm not doing it. I can't do it, and people help me. And so I really related to that part too. Like,
yeah.
And the other thing that I'm lucky enough to relate to you is I had a great support system that could show up and help, and so many people don't have that.
Yeah, I still have that. And what's sad is that people think you should be the same person. I'm not the same person. That person died when Chris died.
Well said.
And I am a different version of me. And I think there are people that came in that I thought would remain really close that aren't. And I've had new people come into my life that are amazing. And I'm just thankful for each of that. And I'm not upset with the people that I thought were going to be there. Like, it's just the journey that I'm on, and whatever, I think that people think I'm going to be that same person. And it's almost like a disappointment when it's like, she's not the same. My youngest daughter, Kylie, asked me the other day, when am I going to get my mom back? Oh.
That just destroy you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because I know that I'm not that same person. And you know what I say to them? I'm doing the best that I can today.
Yeah.
And that's, it's going to be a long journey. And I'm just trying to surround myself with the people who can help me through it and do things that I think would make Chris really proud. And that's what's keeping me where I'm at. But I am not afraid to ask for help. 100%. Like I said, I'm still in counseling every single day, or every single week. And I look forward to that. And I may be at it for a really long time, because that's right now what's keeping me in a safe space.
Well, thanks for, the 10-month thing is really blowing my mind, but thanks for showing up and doing this and talking about Chris and being a good example of 1090. And we'll keep in touch, because as your grief changes, I'd love to know like how it unfolds for you and what.
Well, thank you. And your story and your sister-in-law's story is really resonated with me. And I will tell you that, and that's why I did want to come and do this, because if one thing from my story can help somebody else, your story. I say often when I was in my deepest days, and your podcast would come across, or Keisha's something from her journey would come across, is I thought there's always somebody that's had, or it could be worse than what you're going through. And if I can get one pearl of wisdom from what you guys went through, it's helped. And so if I could do that same thing, it's called giving back. And what you're doing is pretty amazing. And I thank you.
Well, thanks, God. I hope you felt heard and listened to today. That's my number one goal.
100%. And I really appreciate it. I was a little nervous coming on, but being able to, sometimes you got to cry through it, and it's okay. What I've learned is it's also okay to smile through it.
We did have a rough moment there where it was heavy.
I know, and I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It's what it's for. But it was just like, gee, like,
yeah.
Connie, are you a movie girl?
I don't watch a lot of TV.
Hold on, I have to ask you this real quick. Did Chris like Talladega Nights?
He did. I was going to tell you. So this is all I could tell you.
I knew it.
Anything racing related.
The Indian racing one, I thought of him.
Of course. Days of Thunder are big, yes. Any racing movie.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, yeah. Yes, so any racing movies. He was always, let me tell you, 2 movies that he watched on repeat that I would say I don't even know how many times. 2 movies that he loved the most. He probably watched Pulp Fiction 40 times. Forrest Gump.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like total opposite ends of the spectrum. But
those came out the same year even.
Yeah, he was a movie guy for sure. But I'm somebody that will fall asleep at a movie. It's terrible. You put me in a cozy chair and
you're gone.
I'm gone. It's terrible. But anything racing related, never would fall asleep during a racing movie. Racing was that's what we did. That was our life.
Yeah.
And so we loved a good racing movie. Yes. Talladega Nights, all of those. Yes, for sure.
Well, thanks for coming on. And life's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
Yes. Thank you.